running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, October 7th, 2024, episode number 109. We are back on our normal slot. We made it on a Monday. If you paid attention, you got Thursday and now you have Monday. So I guess it's a little bonus baseball for us. I'm Alex. Before I even introduce you, Dave, I'm stealing your thunder because you usually talk about the meets. Paige Shepard.
She's awesome.
Jesus Christmas at Shore Coaches.
She's good.
She ate her Wheaties that morning, man. Like, what's going on, Dave? That was insane. There were some good times there in general.
Hey, Westfield boys coming back, winning the A race. And I also want to give a quick shout out to two of our former guests, Lilla Gordon committing to Penn State and Angelina George committing to Cornell. Yeah, great job, ladies. Those two programs are getting two stellar athletes, and I can't wait to watch as their future unfolds.
Lilia joins one of our former guests, Alex North, and Alex North will be a sophomore when Lily is there. Obviously, two different events. Alex is a sprinter, but they're going to be teammates soon. So that's absolutely exciting. All right, so we're going to get into all the fun stuff. So as always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. If you're watching on X, Facebook, YouTube, hello to everybody. We appreciate you all. If you're over on X, give us a repost and a follow there and spread all this word of mouth. Facebook, a follow and a share. On YouTube, give us a subscribe, smash that like button, comment, all that good stuff, because we always appreciate that, and that'll always help push us in the algorithms and all that good stuff. So before we jump into our show and talk about last week, always got to give a shout out to our buddy Adam Nalvin. We are really close, getting real close to the River Rock and Run 5K, third annual River Rock and Run 5K, Saturday, November 16th. New and improved, faster 5K course. You can either do a solo or you and a partner passing a baton in a 5K, which is really cool. All the money goes towards the Fulfill Monmouth and Ocean County food banks, but you also get some good food and drink afterwards. So that's always a good time. And last week, we had the absolute privilege on Thursday. We made it work of talking to Jennifer Comfort, who is a 20-year multi-time Ironman, just absolute monster of an athlete. But if you listen to that show, I encourage and implore everyone to go back and listen to it, because more than the X's and the O's and the physical, just the mental and just the human side of it, I think made it arguably one of my favorite shows.
It was great. Fantastic.
It was so good. Jennifer was amazing. So we go back and she's awesome. Go support her in any way you possibly can. Go track her. But this week, we have another fun show ahead for everyone. And it's something that, when I first told Dave, I was like, I messaged this guy and, he probably isn't going to get back to me because I message everyone. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, cool, I'll do that. But what date? And I'm like, let's do this. And he's like, yeah, I'm actually wheels up for Paris in a little bit. So can we push this back? And I was like, yeah, we can. Of course we can. So he is none other than John Anderson. He is a now former ESPN SportsCenter anchor. He still does track and field over there. He's the voice of the New York City Boston Marathon and soon to be School of Journalism professor over at his alma mater, Missouri. What's going on, John?
Yeah, I can't wait to get back. I've got a sociology grade that now I think I'll have access to a computer system and I can change that, which would be really exciting. It's crazy. I'm over here taking notes like I'm Tim Walz in a vice president debate. Because like the little video game intro, and I'm like, all I could think about was the old video game that
oh my God,
amazing.
I always dance around when
that's our little man.
I could crush for that. I'm like, it's Talking Ovals, so I like, is the Fifth Avenue Mile out because that's straight. So we're that. And then when you talk about recruiting, like all I can think of is if Jackson Cantwell doesn't go to Missouri, I'm going to be crushed. Like your dad was a great Missouri. I get you're the best now because some kid reclassified. You're the best football recruit going as well.
Yep.
But between his dad and his mom, Terry, who was a shot putter at SMU, and then Christian, obviously a world champ. Yep. That kid. Yeah. So right now, after my Brewers lost and Mizzou got housed, really all I have, I'm hanging on the decision of a 17-year-old kid that I'm just waiting for him to show up and throw the rock for the folks at Mizzou. So. And the way I feel like I need it, because I'll never forget SportsCenter was running in the morning, and all of a sudden I get a text, and it's Christian Cantwell, because he was from Missouri, so we've kind of he's like, I can't believe I got to get up and run the treadmill. A shout out to the shot putter every morning, and I got to watch your mug on TV doing it. And since he was in Missouri and I was here in Connecticut, a safe distance, I'm like, I can't believe I got to get up in the middle of the night to watch you throw a rock in Switzerland. So how about you just you know?
I mean, you could have also been like, well, you don't have to watch me. No, you could have killed them with kindness there, be like, I appreciate that you do, but yeah,
no,
you didn't.
that is not my MO. Ask people to work with me. That is it.
So being a Missouri alum and a Missouri track alum, are you going to be, what's going to be your proximity to the program as you go back there? Just completely hands off, or just a fan, someone that, is able to wander around? Because you're an alum, obviously. Alum definitely treat the turf a little different than the fans do. But what's going to be kind of your, not necessarily role, but proximity to the team?
We'll have to wait and see. Listen, Coach Brett Halter is a great guy, and I'm really happy that he's there. We just got a brand new indoor track, which has got everybody just over the top, because it was a great state-of-the-art track in 1978 or something when you put up the Hearn Center. It was all weather, but it was a flat track, right? 200 meter. And so it was great, but it was in where they put the new track, but it was in a spot in this Hearn Center that was right close to the football stadium. So whenever they would have football games on Saturday, you'd go in, and all of a sudden you'd see a truck parked on the back stretch, unloading tables for the track meet. And you're like, what are you doing? And then they also had, when the gymnastics team was in there, I didn't know this. And I don't know if Simone Biles does it this way, but when they start learning their flips or whatever, they do it kind of from a safe distance, and they go into this pit of all kinds of, like a high jump pit almost, but it's just foam. Well, ours for the gymnast was built into the floor of the Hearn Center. So then sometimes you come out, they'd be vaulting. And so lanes 5 and 6 were gone. Like if you went, you just go down into them. So I'm really excited about that. I hope to be over there a bunch. Their assistant coach is Natasha Kaiser Brown, who I was very lucky that she was a teammate of mine when I was there. She's just lovely and wonderful. Like she married a guy who jumps 7'8", so I try not to get around Brian Brown too much because it just makes me feel bad about my own shortcomings.
7'8", Jesus.
7'8", yeah. And so it might have been 7'8.5". I don't want to cheat him any centimeters, but anyway. So hopefully I'll do that. I can't wait. We got to, I just went out. I was there last week, 2 weeks ago. There was no football game, but there was a Gans Creek Invitational, so there were 40 teams out on the cross country meet. And so I went out there and hung out and interviewed the winner and said hi to all the coaches I'll see at the SEC and some other places. So, I'll be around a lot, mostly because just like everything else in this sport, I'm just kind of a groupie. And I would go anyway. If you need me or not, I'm still going to go. If you want to put me to work, great. If you want to take my advice, great. I still could, I'm not sure I want to coach the high jumpers for him, but I probably could step in and not hurt anybody for a day or two. So we'll see. But it's a good time, and I can't wait to go back, and it'll be neat to be back on campus and walk by all the places that I used to have to run.
It's something that we're actually trying to change here slowly but surely by having guests like yourself and things like that. Is we're trying to change the whole groupie mentality. It's just like a little clique that follows the sport.
And it's kind of niche. Yeah, I'm with you.
You've been a great ambassador for the sport, considering you were on such a major network and someone that, the sports network for God knows still is the sports network. And just being someone that always championed the sport and always, I could imagine some of the battles when they were like, this is the SportsCenter top 10. You're like, no, this is better than all of them. Did you see what they did? They're like, what do they mean? They just ran fast. Like, what are you talking about? Right. Did you see that kick or that jump or that throw? Like, I could imagine some of the times that you guys were looking at like the top 10 and you're just trying to squeak in some of those track highlights.
Yeah, listen, that was, I tell people a lot of times when I'd go out, and if I was at an SEC meet or an NCAA, and I said, I actually can do the sport more good on SportsCenter being in Connecticut than being at the site. Because if I'm there, if it happens, and all of a sudden you go, wow, Mondo just vaulted, 6 meters 50 or whatever he's up to now. 26, excuse me. And then I call it in, and they're like, okay, sure, we'll do it. And then LeBron dunks, and now it goes away. But if I'm there, right, now I can browbeat people. And it might only be number 8 or it might be 7 or whatever, but at least I can try and get it in. We had a pretty good streak there for a while Saturdays and Sundays, I could get 3 or 4 good things in when, whether it was from the American Track League or some of the other places. But, I've got more people. I'll tell you this. When I did my last show and they said, could you have you can have anybody on that we'll go to the mat. Who would you like? And I said, I would like to have Grant Holloway.
That's so good.
And of course, it's the only final of the Olympic trials that day.
Yep.
He's the last guy. He's all signed up. He's fine. He's like, dude, just call me. I'm like, dude, I get that that's how you would operate, but we have to go through more channels than that.
We have to make it a little more official, Grant.
A little more official.
Right. More people need to be involved. But Adam Schmenk was great in getting it done from USATF and our people. But they're like, well, what if he doesn't finish in the top 3? I'm like, he'll finish the top 3. But what if he doesn't? I'm like, he's not going to finish. So now the whole newsroom, though, finally is watching him, which is
awesome.
great.
Yeah, it's great.
So and now they're watching because they're selfishly, they don't want the show to go to crap or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care if he finishes 8th, he'll come on.
Right.
But all of a sudden, all these people were suddenly invested, and then they watched him.
And what annoys me about that, John,
he was great, right? And his charisma, and all of a sudden they're like, wow.
Yep.
At the Olympics, they were all like, man, did you see your dude won? I'm like, yeah, that's why you should be watching him.
Well, the thing that frustrates me about that is you're not going to uninvite LeBron because he doesn't win the game and drop 36 and 9. You're going to still have LeBron James on, even if he goes for 17. And you know what I mean? Like he's like, that's the thing. We need to start building that cachet for our Grant Holloways and great people like that.
Their fear was not that if he finished 3rd or that he didn't make the team, they weren't going to have him on. Their fear is he would not come on.
Gotcha.
That was their fear. It's like, oh gosh, if this guy doesn't make the team,
they don't know Grant then.
He's going to blow us off.
Yeah, they don't know Grant.
Anyway, so it was great. And like I said, then when he won, people were all like vibing, like, hey, look, there's our guy. I'm like, there's our guy.
So
Absolutely.
How many battles did you have to fight there to even get track to be represented?
Not terrible. Honestly, here's where I will get on my soapbox and I will criticize everybody. Here's where the sport doesn't do it itself any favors is because of the embargoes on it. Right? NBC's like, hey, you can't do it until it's run on the West Coast, or some of USATF stuff. I think they've gotten better. Schmeg is the content guy. I think he's realized he's done a better job. Like, how can we push this out? But how do you see? We can't, here's the Olympics, one of the greatest meets that ever happened, and you can't show it on ESPN at any point.
Which is wild.
There's embargoes on and so people are going to watch it. I don't think we're stealing away anybody's thunder by having it on. I think they're in a spot now where they would do more good of okay, let's take some of the embargoes off and let's be able to show these phenomenal performances. So sometimes that was more of getting in the way. It was hey, we'd love to show that. We can't until the 1 a.m. SportsCenter. Well, guess what? OJA's he's back home and he's OUT out.
Yeah, and those are things that us, the general public, might not have even known.
Nope.
We're here saying your sport. They're like, oh, man,
okay. Thank you for that.
Honestly, we need people to have a bit of a sense of humor. I get, you talk about the niche or the groupie, is we're so into it that unless people cover it and treat it just like we want, it gets mad. If you go look up, I've got in trouble a few things in ESPN that I've said, hopefully all inadvertent. I wasn't trying to piss anyone. But one time I was with Steve Levy, and remember the old, you maybe not, the old SID at Texas, a guy named Jones Ramsey, who was at the University of Texas, which obviously has had the Clyde Littlefield relays for 100 years.
Yep.
And he used to always say, when the relays came, he goes, the only thing more boring than track? Field. And so I said that one night to Levy just to crack him up. And all of a sudden the track people they were mad as hell. And then worse yet, they thought Van Pelt did it. So they came after Scotty.
Oh, no.
Scotty's on Twitter, and he's like, guys, I hate to break your heart. I don't think it's me. He didn't rat me out. And somebody goes, I think it was Anderson. And they're like, didn't he run track? And then somebody went, well, maybe he was joking. And they're like, he shouldn't be joking. If he ran track, he should.
Come on.
I'm yeah. So somewhere we need to go, I get it. And we need to fight the battles, but we also need to
lighten up,
embrace and enjoy and find the fun and all the reasons that we loved it to begin with.
we've said all the time on this sport that one of the biggest hurdles is the fact that track meets are long and they are boring. Even if you're a big fan, some of the lulls, if you're sitting there at the friggin' BU Valentine meet and you're at heat number 43 of the 200, your eyes are glazed over. And unless they're running a 19, you don't care. Like, you're just watching it. And it's like, and then you have to wait. And then if you come back the next day, the women are doing the same thing or whatever it is. So it's like, it is part of it. So we've always suggested that they, like, tennis, golf, right? People love watching. Your junkies will watch those earlier days. And then your kind of fair weathers will watch Sunday for golf, or they'll watch maybe the finals for tennis.
Yeah. Yep.
We've suggested him, David Verberg was on the show, and he suggested a similar thing, that you want to do prelims, that track athletes should do a schedule similar to a lot of the ways other sports do, where maybe Wednesday is prelims, Thursday's prelims, and then Friday field events only finals. Saturday distance finals, Sunday sprint finals, leave it the finale that everyone comes to see. And I feel like if we just did that, that would be such a better product and we'd get a bigger lump.
Yeah, I think it would. And the people, so I get it that it takes they've expanded the SEC indoor now to 3 days because they added 2 more teams, and you're like, oh, which is why I am still at my core, as much as I love the high jump, I love cross country best of all.
Get it done. Just get it done.
Right? I love cross country. Yeah.
And I don't think he's the first guy to do it, but the first guy to say it. But I was asking Cooper Tier in Tallahassee when he bonked, but why this is special? Because everybody's here. Like, if you win this race, you got to beat some 800 guys, but the 15 and the 5 and the 3, everybody's in this race.
Yep.
And then, we'll get it over in a half hour. But it's fantastic, right? But if you watch that, and since the Coaches Association took over the production of the NCAA cross country meet, it's been great. Like, that's my favorite. And the enthusiasm of Carrie and her knowledge of having won it individually in this team, and Merber's
done of it.
His enthusiasm, like, I think it pops through the screen. And races
have been such a great follow too on X and everything. And his, like, he, again, talk about humor. That is a guy that gets it. Kyle uses a blend of, and Kyle was a fantastic runner. And he is one of the people that'll suddenly knock himself consistently because he's now comparing himself to like Cole Hocker in the 15. It's like, okay, no, we're not Cole, but River was no slouch.
But it does take a while, and there are down meets, and it is hard to televise some of that. My wife said one time when Alabama won the SEC championship a few years ago indoor, when Dale Waters' team won, like, I don't remember seeing a single Alabama runner win. And she might have been right. I think Shelby McEwen won the night before. So there are challenges, but the people that say it takes too long, I get right. And it takes 2 weeks to play Wimbledon. Nobody bitches.
Correct.
Agreed. Exactly.
Right?
Golf is 4 days.
Some of those things. So it's, there's some things, but I do think when you mentioned golf, you mentioned tennis. I've often maintained this. That's part of why track, I don't know that it explodes. Because people now run, so they get it, right? Marathons are huge, and they
and people will sit down and watch a 2.5-hour marathon, 2-hour marathon, no problem.
If I watch the U.S. Open tennis, I can go down to the park and I can play tennis.
Yep.
And if I watch the U.S. Open or the Masters, I can go out that afternoon and go play golf, right? Okay, well, if I watch Chopra go throw the javelin, I can't go down to the local park and throw a javelin. Thank God. Or I can't go down. I watch Monty. Like, what if every public park, in addition to having a basketball,
just had a pole vault pit
and had a baseball diamond, had a pole vault runway? Like, it'd be the second leading cause of death in America.
Oh yeah, there'd be injuries everywhere. Oh, absolutely.
Or America would burst into the greatest pole vaulting country in the world. Look, there's two of those. There's two ways to do that.
No.
Times
or both. You'll have murders and be good.
Let's just have a rack full of hammers down there and let people just start chucking that thing at the park and see what happens. Like,
John, that's actually a good idea. If we rent out a bunch of space, we call the place the Track House, and that's where you can come down. You want to come do something you saw on TV? Oh, here's a javelin area. Go throw. Here's
just like tennis at the court, totally unsupervised, on your own, whatever it is. Yeah, just go for it.
I mean, it would get people. Listen, number one, there's some things it would get people to do it. Number two, it gets people to respect it.
Listen,
because you would respect the sport. After you try to throw a hammer and then it wraps around your neck and they have to come with emergency services, you're going to be like,
can you imagine
those guys do
being in college, you and your boys, you're all throwing back some drinks. Like, let's just go throw the hammer. It would be like the greatest night of your life until someone died.
We are going to have some specific hours.
And some coaches. There will have to be some the employees
supervision,
like high school kids that work at like your local fun center. Like they actually have to be like somewhat coaches. But I mean, listen, maybe we could employ some of those athletes that that are going to the Olympics, like Allie Wilson, who's a nanny before she gets there when she should be a millionaire, only focusing on running. Like these are the type of things, and maybe we can get some good jobs.
Golf. We could do it like Top Golf. Here's a javelin, and here's an old fashioned, and chicken wings, and go. We just
have them fall off the runway as they're running, like it'll be like on a balcony, and they go down.
I'm just saying. I feel like Bill Blazejowski in Night Shift. I'm an idea man right now. That's all. I'm just an idea man. I don't know that I can execute it. I'm gonna, feed the tuna to the fish, feed the mayonnaise to the fish.
So speaking of ideas, let's get to the idea of you, John Anderson. So we ask all of our guests here, the ones that were athletes in the sport, when did you get the spark? Because you were a high jumper. Now, I tend to couch it that distance runners they were never truly athletes. They were nerds, and they were in AP classes.
No.
They weren't good at basketball, football, maybe decent soccer players, but then they decided to run. Your sprinters, your field athletes and stuff usually are good at other sports as well. And then they just find out they're the best at this, and that's their whatever. So when did you get the spark to become a high jumper?
So I date back, I mean, just very clearly, I was captivated by the 76 Olympics. And even before that, a little bit, I had gotten just enough because track had way more cachet back then.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming off 72, which had been, disastrous, but coming off 68. So it had stuff.
And all that stuff.
And so I had watched Dwight Stones, and I watched him, and I thought that was like amazing to watch him do that. Right.
Yep.
That my life came full circle. And now I work with Dwight Stones is like even more for stranger full circle than going back to Missouri. But so Dwight caught my attention. And here I am. I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Every kid wanted to be some Packer, even when they were horrible.
Yeah.
Right. And around then, everybody wanted to be John Brockington or somebody like that. And I just wanted to be Dwight Stones. And now I'm watching the Olympics, and I can name most of those people that ran there. And it's a shame we've lost some. Harvey Glance, we just recently lost. And then some are still going strong, like all the great things Edwin Moses is doing.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate now when I get to do the Bowerman, that the head of the Bowerman is Herman Frazier. And Herman's always like, he's offended when I go, Herman, you were one of the guys that made me want to get into track and field. You and Benny Brown and Maxie Parks and Fred Newhouse. That was the 4x4 team. Bam, boom, boom, boom. I've been able to say that now I was 11, right? 11 is when all your sporting heroes come to life.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember things, right, that I can remember more about things that happened when I was 11 than I did yesterday. So that's where I got the spark. And then I watched Dwight Stones, and it rained, and he didn't win, and I was crushed. I'm like, oh, right. Jenner was great, and Moses was great, and Mike Shine was great, and the 4x1 team, which I think was Harvey, Steve Riddick, Johnny Jones, who was a high schooler at the time, and why can't I think of the last guy? Anyway, should have been Houston McTeer, but he got hurt. Anyway, so all those guys, and Herman's like, you think I'm old? I'm like, Herman, no, you're a spark. So I went right out, and I was devastated by Stones. My buddy and I, Dan Stro, and I went down to my basement, and my dad was in construction. So we found 2x4s and some other stuff, and we made standards. We put nails in them. Here you go. By the way, high jump, much easier if you put nails with a little head on them so they can't pull off. And then we got our old bicycle flags, and then when my mom would go to the grocery store, we would just like take every mattress off every bed in the house and everything and get it back. Bless her heart. Here's a 12-year-old trying to make a bed. And she never tipped off. Like, did you guys take these off and run down? No, Mom.
We didn't high jump.
That's where that was the thing. That was the spark. And so the first time where we had a track team was 7th grade at Vince Lombardi High School, or junior high in 7th grade. And I go up for the team, and they put me in the 400. And
That's
I said, I'd like to high jump. And I'm like this tall, right? And I'd like to high jump because, I've been doing it in my basement. So that's pretty much certification.
I got mattresses.
Hey, listen, that is more than most kids wanting to high jump in 7th grade have probably ever done. You had more experience than all the other kids probably there.
By the way, that was a hard time. That's when you had the old metal triangular gill bar that would try to find a straight one, and you had the old porta pits, but it was just all that foam stuff and bags that you had there. Anyway, they put me in the 400. I was so bad that literally one race, I was the second guy. You know how sometimes you might be in the second heat? I was the second guy in a lane.
Okay.
And the dude left me in the dust. Anyway, so I don't ever get to high jump. And towards the end of the year, there's one guy who's really fast, and I'm not going to say his name. We've made up. But he's basically just bullying me because I'm a tiny kid and I get dusted. And so I hit him. I just stuck up for myself and I slugged him. Well, guess who got thrown off the team? It wasn't the fast guy.
Never is.
I didn't run track and field again till about the 3 weeks left in my junior year.
Wow.
And I'm doing nothing. So I go out and I work out with the cross country team, which was fun. I ran that a couple of years. Then I just hung out being the manager because I had some high jump aspirations. And I'm playing tennis. I'm on the tennis team, but I'm lousy. I'm like the 8th guy in the tennis team. So that blows to crap your theory that we might be good at something else. While I'm waiting for court time, I just go over to the high jump pit with my friend Terry Nickish. And I beat his brains out literally in my tennis shoes. And the track coach that came over, a guy named Don Ruskusky, who I love, Mr. Ruskusky's passed. He's the guy that used to always say effort is the key to success, which has shown up more than once on SportsCenter. Yeah. And he's like, who are you?
Where have you been?
And I said, well, how do you not know me? I'm like the 8th guy in the varsity tennis team. Like, everybody knows me. My athletic accomplishments are known far and wide. Anyway, so he goes, well, you work for me now. And so that was like a Monday or Tuesday. And by the end of the week, I was the city champion.
Wow.
Of the public
Talk about being a natural.
And then I won. Well, I had grown. So instead of that, now I was like 6 foot tall. And so all of a sudden I go out and in Wisconsin, like it wasn't great at the time. We got a lot of distance runners. You know, Wisconsin, we're thick with distance runners. But if you look really hard, we've got some fast guys, right? Kenny Bednarik. Yeah. We've got our boy Floyd Hurd before that. Kenny Harris.
Hurd,
yeah.
And then like the week later, I won the county championship.
Wow.
And then they're like, you don't get to jump in the regional state meets. You hadn't been around long enough. So that was it. So I wanted to be really good. So all winter, I trained, and our high jump record was held by a guy named Corey Hershka. I only know that because his sister was my age.
So quick question, in the summer back then, now we have like places, if you really look hard enough, you could probably find the clinic. They're not crazy, but if you're good at a field, especially, you could find the clinic. Back then when you were in high school, was there a clinic or was there just go find somewhere, makeshift again and work yourself?
No. So
he had mattresses and he had nails with heads. He was good.
Yeah. We eventually changed that when we realized that would not fall off.
That you were cheating.
I'd like to see what the high jump record would be if they had 9 sprinters, no record. It'd be like 9 foot. So I went with a friend of mine, Greg Gay, and we went to a track camp at a place where they know track at the UW La Crosse. So we drive across the state and we go to La Crosse, which is a power. And they were a power then under Coach Gary Wilson before he went to Minnesota. So we did that, but that was it. So we went to a great track camp that summer. It was unbelievable. Might have kissed a girl from Slinger, Wisconsin. Very exciting.
Memories there.
and then
some things you just don't forget.
Nope. And so, but I trained all through the fall. I was with cross country team, but now I'm not running because I didn't want to do that. I thought that was probably not great training. But I was around my buddies and athletes. And then I trained just on my own and I ran steps and all these things. And I had this Corey Hershka's record, 6'5". And so I'd finish a loop and I'd touch it and I'd go on, I'd pat it and go on. And I come out and that year I just beat everybody's brains out and I jumped like 6'8.5". It was crazy. Second best jump in the state behind a guy named John Bear, who went to Wisconsin and won Big Ten titles and was a billion times better than I was. So that was it. But the first letter I get, because I just thought that was fun, that never dawned on me I could do it
college, right?
in high school was from Gary Wilson at the Hall of Famer. And he said, hey, if you want to think about it. And I didn't ever think about running, but it gave me this idea that maybe I could. I had some ability, or so I thought. So I wrote the coach at Wisconsin, called him. It was a guy before Nuttycombe, name escapes me. And I said, hey, I had this, I bombed out, by the way, I bombed out in regionals. I won all kinds of stuff, bombed out in regionals, didn't even go to the state meet. And he was like, John, listen, I've got a guy, we've got a spay. And basically he politely could not have been nicer, but said no. And he said, we had a guy, and it was John. And then I called Coach Bob Teal down at the University of Missouri. And he said, John, we'd love to have you. And I surrendered on the spot. So those were the two places I was looking. Wisconsin for everything, Missouri for journalism school. So, all right, cool. Now I'm a Tiger. I'm a journalism major. And I got down there. And if either of you two had called Coach Teal, he would have said, come on down. We'd love to have you. So what a wonderful, kind man he was. And he gave you, it's like here, it's not like trying to get a walk on in football, right? Here's a pair of shoes. There's the golf course, and we'll run you off. And that's all we did is and I managed to stick for 4.5 years. So that's kind of how I got there, how I stuck there, and how I ended up, I must have had some value.
Sure.
I always joke that we had 8 guys from Nigeria that were Olympians, and I had a valid U.S. driver's license, so I could drive a van. So maybe. Here, Anderson. Let me see. Yeah, you're good. Here, Captain Anderson, drive west to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Drop them off, and then you can keep going.
So listen, but you know what? Some of those guys, if you'll indulge me here, some of those guys, Coach Teal just turned 101.
Wow.
Congrats to him.
So last year in September, there was probably 25 of us went to see him and help celebrate his birthday.
That's awesome.
And a year later, where he lives is almost gone. He's in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, man.
But he's safe. He and his wife, Shirley, is still alive. She's got to be like 98. His kids are there. They've got generator power, but everybody's been worried about Coach Teal. But we all went to see him, and including 2 wonderful guys that were Olympians that made it to the ceremony. They live in LA now. Chidi Imo, who once was world ranked. He's got a silver medal for a guy named Victor Edit, who was another great Olympian that was there. And it was so cool to see those guys. And it was like, I told him, it's like the same damn thing. How is it I'm driving the car again? This is stupid. Hey, you guys, I don't have to drive the car anymore. They were there. And so now we're calling other teammates that couldn't make it. Benny Lucero, who was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the last of the great rollers. If you've never watched Benny, he's amazing. I showed my kids a picture of him, and they're like, Dad, what is he doing to that bar? It looks like maybe that's not legal, but it was crazy. And now we called Lagos to talk to Henry Amiki, who, if anybody watched the 84 Olympics in LA, Henry Amiki, he's in the final. I know Edwin Moses is going to go 1-2 with Danny Harris, and they come off hurdle 8, and Henry bites it and falls down. I was just crushed. I'm like, oh no. So, but now we're talking to him a lot. It was it was such a good time.
Awesome.
Such a good time.
So even though you're a modest guy, what was your final PR? What was your best jump over at Mizzou?
What is it? What JD Vance said? I just think we should talk about the future. There we go. Listen, I hit the magic number. So I've jumped 7 feet before. So that's all. After that is all great.
There's not many human beings that could jump 7 feet. So that's pretty damn good.
We even jumped a little better than that. And then and this is really talk about an old school guy, old school kids. And then I tore up my ankle and I was never the same. So which is true. Like, it was just awful. But I can remember this, and this is another reason Coach Teal was great. And I hope some kids are watching this, or some coach, because it really was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I go to this first meet, our first Big 8 meet. It's in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I'm like, you can travel 25, and I'm the 26th guy, but somebody misses a bus or calls out sick or whatever, and I get to.
And kids, there was a Big 8 at one point.
There was a Big 8.
Big 73 like it is now.
Big 8. And so we go to Lincoln, and coach comes in after the technical meeting, and he comes rolling in. He says, guys, we're doing this, and the high jump's going to start at 6'8". I'm like, we're going to start at my high school PR, basically. Holy crap. But I make it. I'm excited. And then I make the next one. Now I've got a new PR. I've jumped 6'10". Holy crap. This is the best day I've ever had in my life. And then the guy who won, Brian Tegens, jumped like 7'6". Okay. And he beat a guy named Darren Burton, who was a New Jersey kid.
Yeah.
In Nebraska. And it was a great competition because Burton makes it at like 7'4 3/4 or 7'5", whatever. And so my boy Tegens from Iowa State's got a pass. He's got one jump left at 7'6", and he just crushes it.
Oh man!
Like it looked like he hit his head on the roof. Yeah, and Burton just because they always say you expect to make. He didn't expect to make. So I watch this and I go to Coach and I said, Coach, I just had the best day of my life. And then I watch those guys and I said, listen, I'm never going to be that guy. Like I would like to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. Like, I just know that here it is, I look at them physically, look at me. And he said, John, I'm going to tell you the great myth of coaching that you've probably gotten along the way, which is if you work hard and you do every workout and you eat right and you sleep and you lift weights and you listen to your coach and blah, 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 you win. And he goes, you know what? Sometimes the other guy's just better.
I love that.
And he said, those two guys got more pixie dust. That was his words. He goes, those two guys got more pixie dust than you did. And he said, so you're right. You might not do that. But if you work here, you might be an all-conference guy. But he said, you know what? You can be a contributor to this team. You're going to be better at college because of this. You have a place to go. You'll study. He's like, the benefits of being on this team far outstrip jumping 7'6".
I say that to kids all the time that if they, because I'm a driving instructor on my day job, I teach kids how to drive. And they'll talk, and all some kids that are athletes in high school, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to do it. And they're good enough. I talk to them, and I say to them, listen, I did college track. It is a job. It does get difficult. I'm like, but most colleges, you get free tutors. Everyone else has to pay for them. Most colleges, you have your own computer lab. Everyone else has to fit into their one. You have your own academic advisor. I'm like, the perks you get for being an athlete, if you use them, especially in the academic side, they pay for themselves.
Got to enroll in classes earlier than other people. And like you said, that's back when you did on punch cards and all kinds of things. And then the biggest thing was that everybody usually, that's a broad brush, but most everybody has something going on after school.
Yeah.
They're running track. They're doing a sport. They're in the play. They're in the band. They're in DECA. They're in whatever. Usually, so you get to college, all of a sudden, if you don't have that, now you got this big block of time. Like, wow, I'm out at 1:30 and I don't have anything. And so I always had like that same routine. Boom, 2 o'clock, 2:30. We go over to the track. We go till 5:30. Then you can go to dinner. Then you get to study. Yeah. So it gave me innumerable benefits, and he could not have been more spot on. I quote him all the time. My kids are tired of hearing about him. But he really, and some of his stuff was like, did you make that up whittling at a chair on the Cracker Barrel? He used to always say, guys, the more you can do, the more you can do. But the number of times that served me well in jobs and television, because I'm like, I should learn to do that because then I'll know how to do it. And then the more I can do, the more I can, just little stuff like that was, made him. And he was right. And then he was also right that those guys were still going to continue to just pound me to dust, but that's okay.
I could imagine that certainly helped at ESPN with all the changing in technology, right? Because if you could learn to do more, then obviously you could stay and be more valuable and things like that. Because you guys went from papers and reading off papers to now there's a screen in the middle. And like there's a lot of, change. If that's actually, it's those simple phrases that coaches say that stick with you forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you find out, although I'll be honest, I never was going to go to the iPad like these other people. I write too much stuff in my script and make notes, and also I'm like, that's a dumb word, and I'll put something else new in, so I can't do that. But yeah, what you find with coaches that are great, at least this is what I have found, is they're very little of the coaching they're doing is for today. Right? They may try to get you over that bar, or they may try to get you, to be a sub-4 guy in the mob. But a lot of them are coaching for not years 1 through 4 they're coaching years 5, 10, and 20 down the line. And I was really lucky that things that Coach Steele said was, and like good parents hopefully are that way too. And then at the time, the women's coach was a guy named Rick McGuire, Dr. Rick McGuire. And then they merged and he was there, but he and I got there the same year. And so I've leaned on Coach McGuire, even though I never ran for him. He never did a workout for me. But he's great as a sounding board. And yeah, all those guys, you find out that, it's not really like when you say, God, I'm sounding like my parents, but some of it just becomes apparent. You're like, wow, that guy, he wasn't coaching me for today. He wasn't coaching. Right. He was coaching me for when I'm 4. He used to always, right? He used to say, guys, there's nothing that'll kill a marriage faster than sarcasm. And you're like, so I try every once in a while, I bite my tongue because I'm like, I can be caustic. And I say, you know what? I don't know that my wife is going to like that. So
and then every once in a while, you're just let it fly because you're in that mood and you know it's what it's going to do, but you just do it.
But yeah, he was, and I tell my son every time I talk to him, every time we get off the phone, I say, hey, don't forget, be loose as a goose and twice as shifty. I have no idea what that means. He said it to us all the time.
Fantastic.
I've tried to live it every day, and I have no idea what be loose as a goose and twice as shifty is.
That might have to become our motto for the show.
Yeah.
Like we might I tell him all the time, he's going to go take a test. Hey, dude, loose as a goose, twice as shifty.
So, John, to change gears, what was it like to call the Olympic Games?
Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to do it twice.
Right.
Again, I'll tell you what, this is a deal that when I was on the plane to Japan, which is a giant plane with like 7 of us, but I had my computer and the first thing I did is I wanted to wait purposely to kind of see what I was feeling. But I typed Coach Teal a note. And I said, because giving his age and stuff, so you send it to his daughter and she brings it to him. But I tell you, I said, Coach, I would not be on this plane going to do this if it was not for you. If you had let me quit, I don't know, I might still be in television, but I wouldn't be doing this, right? I'm here because you said stay and do this. And so to think of a kid who's really his whole identity and why he wanted to be in the sports was the Olympics, and to go there was phenomenal. And what a phenomenal meet they had with no one in the stands in Japan.
So I was going to ask, like, how different was
then to go and see 70,000 rabid people. And it's funny in retro, as great as the meet was in Paris, I'm almost still more impressed by the people in Tokyo and what they did with no one around when they just did it cold. Like that was really,
it was a training exercise basically for all them. And they,
right. Yeah. And to see what Varholm ran or what,
and they had zero family. There was no one there.
So to see that still is really impressive, but to be there for, like I said, as somebody who has liked track and loved it since he was 11, and it was because of the Olympics, to be in the Olympic Stadium and to call races like that. And the guy I work with, Rob Walker, is phenomenal. He is the lead announcer, and yet he is absolutely about sharing the sugar. What events would you like to do? And I said, well, I'd really like to call Grant Holloway's race since he screwed it up the last time. And he's like, great. And last time I had done Sid, so he did Sid this time. Or did I do Sydney again? Anyway, so we just, we divided, like he wanted to do the mile because obviously Rob is British. So there was Josh Kerr and he wanted to be involved in that. And, so it's just amazing. The meet is so great, right? People you watch me like, I wish people understood how great it was. And every race was every race was fantastic. And it was either because the competition was crazy, like the 10K when, what was it, 13 guys went under the
amazing.
Unreal.
Seeing an honest 10K at the Olympics was awesome.
Fantastic.
Right? Or the 800? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but
like Hopple, 141 breaks the American record, doesn't even medal.
My boy Hopple, who obviously went to KU, so I hate him. And that's cool. He knows that. I send him all the time. Like talk about backhanded compliments. And like I sent him when he made the team and he had done, where was he set? He said 1,000 American record, whatever. But I texted him, like I said, literally, dude, finally you are coming up on the shoulder of Jim Ryan.
Right.
In Kansas, it's
another
really
Kansas great. Yep.
Like, dude, you are getting up on his shoulder. Yeah. And then it was like, which I guess would be cool if you both hadn't gone to Kansas, right? So then it's just pounded. But yeah, to finish 4th and run 140, whatever, you're just like 141. Yeah, that's just nuts. So they were all these magnificent races, and then when they weren't close, then it's like Sydney, and you're like, okay,
that's just greatness.
So it wasn't a competitive race, but it was so flabbergasting that's what I mean. Everything, like the pole vault, not close, but the dude jumps 625.
Mondo is a freak of nature.
And so that's, so every race was great.
I was
either fantastic in its timing or in its competitiveness and still times, or it was just such these dominant performances that, I just can't say enough about what a treat it was. And that is one of those things where you really go, wow, that's a privilege. And once you're in that stadium, you're not quite like the athlete because you're not getting the medal or anything. But once you've heard your national anthem and see those people and watch them cry or sing along, like you never hear our national anthem again the same way. But what you really realize is that national anthem, that song, regardless of country, affects every person the same way.
Yep.
When we were in Boston, I had Kipchoge. I was fortunate enough you said, hey, you want to do a sit down with Kipchoge for the fans?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to? Yeah. We have to twist your arm, John.
I think I was thinking about going to sit in the bleachers at Fenway Park, but sure, I can do that. But the thing, I said, I ask American athletes that all the time.
Yeah.
But like they all have that same goosebump reaction, and so I think there were gold medal winners from either 27 or 29 different countries.
Yeah,
and so you heard it, but every one of those people has the same reaction, and so that's where you're like, wow, this is global. We're all the same thing. I mean, these people got more pixie dust, but they're all going through the same. What's the old wide world of sports? The same human drama of athletic competition.
There you go.
And it's truly remarkable. And then four dudes ran 141.
And then one of them had to lose, not get on a freaking podium. That's insane that one of them, and it had to be the American.
Now, I mean, obviously there were no fans, but could you tell a different vibe around the athletes? Because in Paris, it just seemed like the U.S. team was just so focused. I mean, we were scoring, and I mean, every event. I mean, distance events. Like, did you sense a different vibe this time, or
it seemed on the outside looking in? It seemed like Team USA was a team, not just.
Shout out to Vernon Norwood too, because he seemed like the guy who kind of brought everyone together.
So,
it's a leader.
Vern and Ry Benjamin are. Yes. I know Grant, who we love, was one of the captains, or was voted the captain, and he's kind of a Pied Piper as well too.
Sure.
But Vernon and Ry just have a different sense about it. Ry is just like what an unbelievable human being he is, and the way he treats other people, and the way he supports everybody. Like, it's funny, like you hear with Trevor Bassett, like, I didn't know he knew my name, let alone, come up and say hi to me, all these guys. So, there was a different vibe. And I think part of that, though, was because even though people were tested, you were still kind of kept away. It was hard. Right now, they could all be on top of each other. They could do stuff. And so the vibe was different because of the fans. But I think the USA Team USA's vibe was different oh, by the way, they had a little catching up to do, right? The men on the track were not great in Tokyo.
No, they were not.
Krauser was really good. They had some guys, but they needed to do that. And jeepers, did they do that, right?
So what was it like with the way being there and the way, obviously Quincy Wilson, we were all awaiting him, right? And they lead him off and he doesn't have a great leg. He obviously knows that. But what was it like looking at that as a fan and then just seeing the way Vernon reacted? And I feel like he could have made that young man's career continue to trick, because those are the type of races that a young athlete, maybe we never hear from him again, right? Because but the way I think Vernon handled it,
I was great.
Now no one's talking, obviously we remember, but no one's talking about Quincy Wilson that he didn't have a great leg. They're just talking about that
he has a gold medal.
Team got a gold medal. He's a gold medalist, and that the veteran of that group, he did, came up and lifted this kid up and has potential, kept his career on track, because we've seen that one bad race could happen, but I think we're going to see so much more. And I think Vernon's a huge part of that, the way he handled in his leadership.
Yeah. And Dedman's a really veteran guy too. Bryce Dedman's a really good dude.
Yeah. Those guys had to be on that.
And Bailey was a first timer, so he's smart, but he's still a first timer in that whole situation. Yeah. So Vern's like, okay, all three of us are quick. We don't need to win. And what the worst, and we've got 1,200 meters to make this up, and we'll be fine. And he ran that way because how many times you see every time that person tries to make it up in the first 200 and they're on their shoulder, like, here they come. And you're like, that's fine. Here they come. But wait till they're going to go.
They just ran a 21 and here comes the 23. Like that, 24. Like that's
yeah.
Yeah,
But
25. Exactly.
One, just a steady hand, knew what we were, who we had, that he was going to be fine. And Bailey was terrific, as was Deadman, that they did that. But the way they came after the kid afterwards to just support him.
Yep.
They support him obviously in race because they got around and got him into the final. And what a great final that was, right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, Raj just holding off to.
That's the same thing, right? That race is fantastic because it's this close, and the women's race is fantastic because it's this close.
Yeah, exactly. Two different reasons, but two amazing things.
Right.
And I think
I so wanted them to get that record because I don't think it's any great circus. Like the record's so dirty, Some of those are. When I do preparation for all that stuff, I put the world record progression in there to see where it is. What's going on, and like the women's 800.
Oh, well, I mean,
like here it was set 12 times in 10 years, and now it hasn't been in 40. What does that tell?
If we've seen pictures of the woman who has it, it's
Kraktogvilova. She's just a Czech farm girl. She told you.
Sure.
In Hayden. Yep. But there's so many of those records that are like that. They're like, okay, in the 60s and 70s, they were broke 13 times, and then they haven't been broken in 45.
Yeah, I mean, you had the whole thing with the Korean women
technology being better and training being better and nutrition being better. It's almost unbelievable. Right?
None of it makes it speaks for itself. It doesn't need to. So I so wanted them to get that record, and they came so close.
They did.
Such a dynamite group of those people. And the other part that I really, Dave, that I love, and I've been really fortunate because of the last 7, 8, 9 years to do the SEC and the NCAA meets.
Yep.
Is it's cool to know so many of those kids, right? Like I sent Hawker a picture of himself, above, and he's on the medal stand, and I'm like, gold. That's the text. And he, sends it back. And it's not just our people, right? Leo Neugebauer, who's fantastic. Or, oh my gosh, I don't know that I was happier for anybody else in that whole arena than Lyndon Victor, who was a great guy at A&M. And we have laughed so many times together. Like Lyndon will tell you, if it wasn't for Lyndon Victor, Fred Curley would have starved in college because he couldn't cook anything, and he came over and he made curry chicken. And now Fred's all about, I got a garden and I got my fresh, right? That's all he tweets is his garden. But at College Station, dude was that's it. He if it's not for Victor, he starves to death. And so getting to know so many of those people,
and then following them as they progress, it's got to be wonderful.
And you find out like they're great, whether they are American or German or Joseph Fambule, who's kind of Liberian but mostly Minnesotan. It's just but all those. By the way, he said after I quit, after I retired from sport, he sent me the nicest text. I'm like, oh my God, he is Minnesota. Nice beyond compare.
He just has that whole entire attitude. And it's funny too, because like we're trying to build that here because we've had a slew of some of the top high school athletes coming on this show, and it's always great. And me and Dave talk about this all the time, just how well put together these kids are. Because they've been in front of cameras because they do TikTok and all this other stuff, and they have their own things. And just to get them on here, and they're just so well put together, and hoping that we can create that same pipeline that you have, that we have a bunch of these kids. Like we had Benjamin Shu on a few weeks ago, the best discus thrower in the country for high school. And it's like, he's going to be fantastic over at Texas, and it'll be nice to go in and, keep those relationships that we've had and be able to come in. And when they do something great, congratulate them and all those types of things. It's awesome.
And it's funny. Well, I try to do, the winners are easy.
Yes.
Hey, here they are, right? The trackside job is the best job going because they only make me talk to the winner. But I go, and because you get to know so many of them, it's amazing what happens when you go up and see Yusuf Bizimana after he bombs indoor in Boston. And I see him up in the stands, and I got a minute. So I just pop up and sit next to him like, dude, you okay? What's going on? I'm gonna, I can't wait to see you outdoor. I'll see you at the relays. You're going to be great. Like if you take 2 minutes about these guys and you go, and they go, oh, maybe it's not just he talks to me because we win.
Yeah.
Mercy Chelangat and her brother Victor Kiprop might be my two favorite track athletes ever. And then like at the Bowerman, because she's training working in Flagstaff, and he's somewhere. Anyway, so now they show up, and like there they are, and Hilda Olamomoy, who just went from Florida, and I saw her. By the way, I go to this track. I go to the cross country meet in Columbia, okay, and Stanford's there. And so it's cool. The men's race. I'm out there standing at the start line to watch them go. And I look and I'm like, Juliet Whitaker, you can't come hide in Missouri and think I'm not going to see you. Like, what are you? I see you. And I said, what? So I said, what are you doing? You just hanging? She goes, I'm running in the B race. And if you want to know why Juliet Whitaker makes the finals of the Olympics in the 800s, it's because she's willing to go run the B race in cross country.
Yep.
Not even with so then her whole team's around. I said, I can't wait to see indoor. I'm like, I hope you make the varsity by then. Which is good because then they all laugh and they realize it's like, and Michaela Rose does the same thing. She's running cross country again. This is her third year. And like last year, she didn't have a great race at SEC. She finished like 34th. The year before that, she was 20th. But these two athletes that they're willing to go do, I'm in the Olympic final.
Yep.
But coach, I'll go run in the B race because I know when my 2 laps really count, I'm going to have put in the work in October. And you're just like, that's the story to go tell every kid. You want to be great? Go beat Juliet Whitaker and run in the B race. Not even the good one. You're running the B race in Columbia, Missouri.
And thing is, an athlete like that gets it. She gets it that, number one, you're never done in track and field. You are always training. And number two, to be good at 2 laps, you should probably be pretty good at running 8, right? You know what I mean? Like
one, yeah. And Michaela Rose, that's the first thing. I said to her, like, it's not just that you're willing to put in that work, okay? But that's not your best deal, and so you might finish 30th. And that's not where you finish. You finish
you're a champion. Yeah.
So those people that do that are and again, that's why I love the sport, and that's why I love the sport at all levels, because as a guy who should have been a D3 guy, right? That's probably where my sweet spot was, even though I wasn't. But all those people put in the exact same effort as an Olympian.
Yep. We always say that.
Yep.
Right? So they might their mile repeats, instead of being at 4:20, might be at 4:80, 4:45, or 5:10, whatever. But everybody puts in the same work. And I think that's what's really, and then overall, any of it, right? You can't cheat fitness.
No.
I have the baseball players over here on. Every once in a while you see a guy like, that guy's a pro athlete, but what his magic arm can throw it 100 miles an hour. You're you're not winning the Olympic 10K if you're, and guys
not putting the work. Yeah.
Guys know that when they go to the line, right? And that's the old question sometimes is like, right? Do you train hard and risk not starting, or you not train enough and risk not finishing?
Yep.
Where you go in that. But you can't, there's not a guy there that can fake fitness. Nobody ever. I'm going to go to the NCAA cross country meet in Madison, and like, I guarantee the guy who wins that is in shape, and he's been in shape all year, and he has been busting his hump.
And you know what though? The thing is, like you said, like, as long as you're out there and you're giving it 110%, there's a reason why in races, those leaders a lot of times will pass the line and they will wait and they'll turn around, because as long as everyone's giving it their all, it's the same pain. You feel the same pain. Some people are just superhuman and they feel less.
Yeah,
but that's a natural. But you are going through the same effort. You're all winded. You're all giving it your all. And sometimes you're a teammate, and you might win, but you turn around and you're looking at the clock because your teammate's about to beat his PR 10 seconds behind you in the 10K, and you're just as amped up for them. That's the beauty of the sport as well.
And there's a shared suffering.
Hell yeah.
That comes through, and especially with distance runners, right? So I caught into a lot of that, but one of my favorite teams I was on was when I was a sophomore, watching a really great cross country team at Green Bay Southwest that finished up 3rd at state. And those guys, to me, were the great example. And it's oddly enough, I found that with most every great cross-country team or distance run, if you find one of them, you find like 9 of them.
They're a cult. They are. That's what I always said with the XC teams, and not in a negative or pejorative, but they are a cult. That they are, and you find swimmers are like this too. Swimmers are the same way. They kind of click, but which is also why in college,
same wrestlers too.
But you find the cross country guys and the swimming teams usually get along because they both understand that cultiness of the groups. But we have a question for you, John.
Yeah, what do you have?
So Darren Peters, who's a frequent watcher and knows everything at USATF rules, he's fantastic. John, are you excited to see Maddie Centrowitz is pacing Chicago Marathon for Akira D'Amato?
So I didn't know Akira D'Amato was and Matt were even doing that, but yeah, I like that's good for Matthew that he's going to go out and go cover the distance. I have a great picture from the New York Marathon, and it's Centro, and next to him is Paula Radcliffe, and then it's me, and then it's Carrie Tolson, and then it's Tim Hutchins. Nice. And I'm holding a sign. I'm holding a little 5x8 whatever index card like this, and it just says not an Olympian. This is what these people think. They're like, hey, let's get a picture. Okay, hang on. And they're like, Anderson, hold this up. Not an Olympian. So listen, I think it's great when people do stuff like this because people know Matthew Centrowitz and they know Matthew Centrowitz is a gold medalist. And they also know that whoever wins the whoever wins the Chicago Marathon is probably going to average a better mile pace than he did to win the 1500 because
probably because
that's one.
Those guys are going to run 26 miles in a row faster than he won the Olympic 1500.
But a win's a win, right?
All you got to
I don't think we will see that kind of time happen again.
Not with the way they've been.
So many guys
3:27 to win this time around. They're like, we are not letting this thing. We are not going to let this thing waddle.
What Central run 350, right?
Pardon me?
It was a 350 that he won, and it was NCAA was faster that year.
He wouldn't have beat Faith Kipyegon.
No.
Comes through there.
So, John, we definitely.
But when he does that, right? When they do that, that brings eyeballs. So
they bring the cash
better, and obviously people think the world of Kira. So I think that's when you get people like that can do stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm all for it. They can't do anything but help and bring eyeballs and have people watch.
So one of these years, I'm pretty sure you probably know of him, Jeff Benjamin. We have to get you hooked up with him because he does a gala event that we're actually going to be going to at the end of this month. And it's called the Legends Gala, New York City Marathon Gala. And you got to come there because it's a lot of these legends of the sport, the people that you probably know. And
Bob Beeman, Joan Samuelson, Matty Centrowitz Sr., Dave Waddle, Rob Benson,
and Dave actually went last year, and Dave
Dixon,
came on the show last year, and you got to come down there. I feel like you would fit in and love that and enjoy that. I feel like Jeff Benjamin would love to have you there.
I think it's Rod Dixon. Was it either Rod Dixon or Jeff Smith that said it about the New York Marathon? He goes, when you're at the starting line, prize money is the last thing you think about. And when you cross the finish line, it's the first thing you think about.
Probably Dixon, but I'm not sure. But
could have been him when it went through. Yeah. So those guys, I would love to listen. I'd love to hang around with all those people.
Yeah, I will get you. But after this, I'll get you in touch with Jeff because,
usually I'm there cramming because
it's in Staten Island. So
yeah, I fear that I'm not going to know something. I'm going to miss something. And most of the time, luckily, I'm okay.
The best part is it's a gala, so you're just kind of hanging out and doing your thing and mingling. So it's not necessarily you presenting and having to be forward facing like that. But I feel like you're going to be like us. You're going to be like us because me and Dave are going to be the talentless schmucks there that just really like track. And at least you did something worth noting. Like I was never really good. Dave was good, but. You at least jumped 7 feet. I was like a 157 guy in college. It was terrible.
How about this? So I ran the New York Marathon, right? Once.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tell people I ran 2 marathons in one day, my first and my last.
For a field guy, that's great.
So I have raced 2 world champions in my life, world record holders, world champion. I lost to Usain Bolt in a parking lot. To which my son said, "Dad, that guy creamed you." I'm like, he creams everybody. Okay.
That's just me, fastest runner of all time.
But I beat Haile Gebrselassie at the New York Marathon because
I got to hear this story.
Well, first off, I gave him like an hour head start, right? Because I don't know what my corral is. All I know is I finished and he did not.
Hey, so win's a win.
DNF. So I feel like that goes to my.
That's got to go on your World Athletics profile.
That's
number 1 on your resume. I beat Ali Gabsley.
There are a lot of guys that are not 1-0 against Ali. Yeah, but I am.
Yep. All right. So the last thing we want to get to with you before you've been gracious with your time. We're at an hour,
Oh,
and I
it's great.
love it.
I
We
love to
appreciate
talk.
it.
I love to talk the sport. It's nice to
Ah, we
have
appreciate this.
nice to be in the community.
Yeah. So speaking of the sport, right now, Dave and I have talked about this, that we think that we're probably, in my lifetime, especially, one of the best spots that we've been in the sport, where the popularity, people, they know Noah, they know Sid, they know Sha'Carri, Ryan Krauser is front facing. There was a good amount of people, Jakob, with him and Kerr going at it. Even, Mondo, like, getting some love in places. So we're in the best possible position that we, are right now for the sport in a long time. Where do you feel the future is? Because we also have the Grand Slam League, Michael Johnson, Ryan Krauser's doing a throwing league. We had Zig Ziegler on. He's doing Z Athlete Village in Vegas, an indoor league. Kirk Berridge is doing Track Star League. Like, there's a bunch of leagues popping up for all different types of disciplines. Where do you feel about the future of the sport right now?
Well, and it's funny when you talk about those little things. We should also shout out Paul Doyle for the American Track League.
We want to get Paul on. We're working to get Paul on.
I would love to have him
on the
show.
show.
Literally, when everything was shut down, and obviously he's got a great client list. He's a wonderful agent.
Yeah.
I think he had more medalists than anybody else. Like I don't know that he made nickel one and probably lost a lot more, but he found a place for people to run that indoor track league down in Fayetteville a few times. Like, that guy literally, to some degree, helped save the sport and put it in the spot where it was, so those people could still run during that pandemic. So all these guys are doing it. But I like, part of the reason I think we have some of these extra ones is because, okay, here's the Grand Slam Track League, which is awesome. And I was really, Michael and Kyle Merber had me out to host the kickoff, which was, wow, what an honor.
Incredible.
I saved the text that I have. Carl Lewis sent. He's like, hey, you want to walk over together? And I'm like, I'm just never gonna ever.
Jersey legend, baby, Carl Lewis.
Yeah, Carl
New Jersey.
Lewis. I'm like, I can't believe that. Yeah, I have this text from Carl Lewis that says,
save that forever. Yeah.
And I have a really other funny Carl Lewis story after that too. Anyway, but that they don't have field events, or they just had the Athlos, the Serena's husband's meet. Yeah. And they didn't have field events. So Krauser, good, you got to get some throwers in there, and maybe they have to rethink how they do that. I hate to see anybody left behind, right?
And quickly, Athlos was one of my former teammates, Chris Vanzetta. He's the one that teamed up with Gabby Thomas to make that's one of my former Maris guys. So shout out to the Foxes, baby.
Yeah. That people are there. Like, I think they're finding their spots, that there's things to be done there. I lost my train of thought a little bit on
just the
these other meets, but so they're leaving them out, and so you might have to rethink this some way, and maybe it's a little more a la carte, because I'd like to see the high jump. Oh, I was gonna say, because look how Christian Taylor threw a fit, and he should, when all of a sudden triple jump went out of the Diamond League.
Yep.
Right. So we need to have that, because all of it is really good. It's just how can we get it all in,
track and field.
So, but I think we're at, not only are we at a great time because of some of the athletes that are available to us, right? With Kipchoge finishing up, and capitalize, because I don't know that we capitalized on Bolt. I don't know that we capitalized enough on having the World Championship in Eugene.
Nope.
This is really our spot.
Yep.
We're going to LA, right? This has to be a full court push to LA. We've got to have all hands on deck. We got to have it on as often as we can. We got to compete. We got to have, like Michael Johnson, get these rivalries. That's the hardest part. Put them in a lane. I couldn't believe it when Greg Foster passed away. By the way, that's another one where you talk about, can you get stuff on ESPN? Like, I went in and said, we have to do stuff on Greg Foster, and we're going to do it really long. And we put that in. We're like, we're getting Greg Foster in the show.
I love it.
Absolutely.
But he and Skeets ran like 60 times against each other.
Yep.
Like 60. So we need that, and it's good. So the more that we can get out there, the more we can do that, the more that Ryan Krauser brings people along. Like, I wish in the Olympics, when they kept showing it, and especially in the international feed, they kept showing Ryan Krauser as Roger Stona was, through 70 meters and going to win.
Right.
And they're like, they're missing it. He's coaching him right now.
Yeah.
Right? The Arkansas, they couldn't retain their throws coach. And so Krauser's just like, yeah, I'll put him on my ring. And like, that's why they keep showing Ryan Krauser, is because, like, he's invested more than he is in his own throw. He's got enough of these things, just hang them on doorknobs. This guy, like, he's all in that. So all those things are great, but they all, I think, have to be pointed at LA, so that we blow the roof off that dump in real time, right? Because it's going to be a little bit
real time for us in America.
right. So we don't have to tape delay anything. It's just going to be real time. We need Mondo to still be there. We need Sha'Carri Richardson to be great.
Sid.
We need those names. We need Sid. We need them to be great. I was telling somebody the other day.
We need Grant to win one of those this time, not just place. Let's get a victory in the 5 or the 10K because he can. Grant has the ability.
In Nebraska, like Nebraska getting better. And I said, college football is just better when Nebraska's
I've
good.
said that too. Even though they beat Rutgers.
I don't like them this week. They beat my
we're not a fan of them right now.
my alma mater.
But track and field for Americans is better when there's Americans in the 100.
100%.
Now you get a guy like Bolt that he transcends, right? I don't buy you just got to have Americans. If that's the case, nobody would watch Federer. Nobody would watch Nadal.
Bolt had such a moxie about him that he was a likable guy too.
Yep.
Those things are better. And I think that's part of what was so wonderful about Paris is like, Dave, you touched on it. Like there weren't many places where we missed.
Look at Kenneth Rooks. Kenneth Rooks scored in the steeplechase. I mean, come on.
In an event that America is
the last lap of death, like he just was gone.
It was amazing.
And that was the last event you saw real place because out of all the distance events, the steeple has been something that the Africans have just had. Period. Like Americans,
there was no Jaeger. You're like
Jaeger was our shot,
and they nearly killed a guy in the backstretch. That was unfortunate.
Oh my goodness, that was
terrifying. But
that was terrible. But by the way, how about can we just shout out Ed Eyestone? I had two marathoners,
BYU,
Oregon. The other kid that he got in, Corrigan, who had taken up the steeple 5 minutes ago and bombed at the NCAAs, then makes the team after it, finishes top 3, then goes to Philly or whatever. Like Ed has just got that guy knows what he's doing, man.
And a great runner himself too. I mean, he was phenomenal.
So question for you, John. What I'm seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of splitting of the disciplines, right? Krauser's doing throws. Well, hopefully, maybe you should go start a jumps league being, someone that's someone that's invested in it, right? With the name. It wouldn't be a terrible thing. People know that who you are like that. That's just, but do you think it would be smart if we split the sport in that way and then it culminates at the championship type of event? So we aren't dealing with the bogged down nature of where do the normies go to? What do they focus on? Where now they could focus on, Grand Slam is just basically a lot of, high sprint events. And then maybe you'll get a great distance runner. Okay, we just have distance and XC. And is it better if we kind of split and then come together? Or is that kind of a bad thing for the sport?
I don't know if it's a bad thing. I like to have them all together, right? I'm down with track and field. I think they live together. I think they support each other. And the harder part with the field events is trying to develop that rivalry where at least I can put Sha'Carri and Shelly and Fraser Price next to each other, right? I can put so that's all happening at once. The field events, unless you really kind of get them, TV, it's hard to watch. You got I love when they do the isolated feed, but even then, here's this jump from Tara Davis, and now we got to wait for Mahambo to come around this many times. So it's a little harder to kind of, get because again it spans. But no, I think they need to be together, and I think there's good reason for them to be together. I know why they're trying to fit it into TV windows and do some of these only. But no, I think they need to be together. I'm not sure I have that solved yet in how to do that, and that's not just me as a field event guy.
I think Europe has proven that it can be done with the Diamond League. You have Europeans that are very invested in the sport of track and field.
And by the way, they're way more interesting to watch. Okay. Cause I will stump for that. Although the 100's amazing and the 10,000 is amazing, they're doing the same thing.
Yep.
They're just doing it faster, but they're doing the same thing. Shot put's not like the pole vault, and the pole vault's not like the long jump, and the long jump's not even like the triple jump or the high. So all those are unique.
They're all individualized.
Things that people, watch. I don't know how many people they run all the time, but as a guy who constantly, when it rained at Mizzou, and also the football team moved indoors, and you're like, hey, how about you get your big offensive line ass off my pit?
Yeah.
But all those guys, when the coach wasn't looking, they all were trying it.
Yeah.
All of them were trying it, and they all wanted to go play in the sandbox. They ran down and did it. All of them did.
And a lot of them probably did it in high school at some point too. So they were trying to relive that.
To me, that's what I'm saying.
People grow up with it with them together.
Yeah. Some of my favorite teammates were my the guys who were on my team who threw the shot put, who were in field. Like it was a team. It was track and field, and we didn't win meets if the field guys didn't do their job. Like it was a cohesive unit.
And I'll say Dave and I had much more fun watching trials this year because we're lucky enough to have 12 athletes at the trials that were on the show. And they were hammer throwers, and we had Hope Bender, who was a heptathlete. And, we also had, we had a bunch of different people, throwers, jumpers, and it was just so much more fun to be able to watch the full meet and know a lot of the individuals at the full meet, where I think that's also the name recognition is an issue too. Because why am I going to go watch guys throw the shot put if it's not Krauser or Kovacs, right? I don't know these guys, and we need to, I think, do a better job.
They went and got lit at a Denny's. Who wouldn't want to hang out with that guy?
But we need to have more people with name recognition. I think that's another thing. We're getting that name recognition. We are slowly getting there, but I think it's up. We're trying to carry the torch of keeping those names out there.
Yeah, like
you,
to me,
RG3, Emmanuel Acho, I think, do a really good job of when
RG3 is great.
Goes on, and I really hope RG3 lands somewhere big. That's going to. I hope, honestly, Michael should take RG3. I think Michael Johnson, the Grand Slam Track League, are a perfect fit for him to go and do commentary there. But it's like
keep it all in the Baylor family.
Yeah, he would.
Why not? That'll be beautiful, right? Let's have fun with it.
No, I'm going to miss RG. Like he was great.
Clyde Hart, yeah.
He was great for his enthusiasm. He was great because he knew what he was doing. And he was great on occasion because he'd ask a question like, well, Robert, come on, dude, that's elementary. And then I thought to myself, sometimes
that's what the fans need.
Between Dwight and Lara and Dan and I, that we kind of, we know the sport inside and out. And so sometimes we talk to each other like we know it inside and out. And maybe the casual guy doesn't. So maybe you're like, oh, that's an elementary question. And maybe that's a really good idea that we answer that.
Kiss, keep it simple, stupid.
You know what? No, but I mean, like,
but some people get really, they get mad at that, right? If you go to some message boards, people are mad. I can't believe they did some. I'm like, you know what? After a third down incompletion, Joe Buck says, and now it's 4th and 8 and the punting unit comes up. Nobody gets mad when you say the elementary things in some of these other sports.
Yeah, it's great.
So I don't know that we have to in these other ones. Like, it's fine.
We need more simplification, not less. We need more layman's things, not less in the sport.
I thought ESPN nailed it out of the park with their NCAA coverage. It was just so, especially the XC, how you have the real time with teams and score. It's like we knew. I mean, I think it was.
Yeah, the data available is fantastic. To
Northern Arizona, it was like a 1-point win, but it was just
NC State and
NMU. But you guys had it the whole time, and it was so easy to follow. For a sport that is not easy to follow if you don't know what is going on, because most people don't even know that the lowest score wins.
The other thing I think is really hard to follow is that it's a 10K race, but we give mile splits because people still like that. You're talking to the right people. It's the one thing that the Americans got over the rest of the world. For whatever reason, the mile became the standard for everyone. Not, and I always found that to be interesting, where it's track and field is a European measured sport, period. We, as we're going up as Americans, we get feet and stuff here. But the one thing that became important was breaking the American mile. And I still don't understand why that became such a great, I get the feet and why 4 minutes is amazing, but it's still just amazing to me that that's what took over. That it's still hung. Yeah, that it's still there and that they run it indoor, but not outdoor.
Right.
Just kind of strange.
I also never understood how they called the 1500 the metric mile. Why not make it full 4 laps and call it 600?
Why not just call it the mile? And the other thing is, right, you go 1
or go 600 meters. It's 4, at least it's 4 laps.
Right. They go the 1, 2, 4, 8. Why not 16?
Right.
And
I don't know.
Have the mile being the mile. At least it's really.
And then it's close. 4, but at least the 16 is 4 laps all the way around.
Like the 800 half mile. It's not like they go down to the 800 to the T.
Right.
Like they still
880 yards. Right.
Yeah.
That's a mystery. I think it would popularize things if you brought back the mile, but I don't know exactly. I'm not.
And maybe Cole doesn't win. We need that 1500. Maybe
when Stepco calls me, I'll make sure I bring that up with him. I don't know if he doesn't. Right, the race comes out different. Right, maybe he doesn't take off at that point. He goes. Right. But how great was that race for him?
Oh my God.
The fact that he tried once, got stonewalled, and then had enough balls to do
pass on the inside. Yeah,
because the thing is, it's like passing on the inside's hard as it is. And number two, when you have that momentum to get slowed up, to
then
even
just go
consider
again.
having it again is.
But
and
it
if
just
you've
opened
never
up for him. The inside lane just opened right up, and he went
And
right.
Usually it does,
also to have Yared also be in there as well, to have two Americans.
I thought
one
Yard
win,
was
one
getting
off.
third, man. I mean, second.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah,
It was
such a
yeah,
cool
the whole thing was great. And then always, because I always joke with Cole, I'm like, we're all tortoises and he's the hare. Because his
Got it.
flow is so good,
Got it.
right? So,
Oh, I
Dave,
read so real
Dave, that
quick.
was not a shot at you at all, okay?
No, I don't care.
Because Alex and I have full coverage that we were
I'm
not
good. Now listen,
not a
I've
cheap
embraced
shot.
it. I've embraced it.
I just want to bring up something ridiculous I read. I don't even remember where I read it, but someone was writing and saying, hey, maybe Cole Hocker is having a post-Olympic letdown. And it was talking about the fact that he was just only running like 330 and 329 and Jakob got him. I'm like, do we realize that guys were running 335 and being happy at the Diamond League not 5-6 years ago, and that those are being run in like 332, and now we're seeing guys, and if you're not running 330, 329, you're not even considered in the top 5. Like, I don't think whoever wrote that understands just how far the 15 has come in the last 5 years.
And
Since
even
Jakob
so,
Ingebrigtsen has raised the level.
Listen,
Everybody
do you
in
think
the
Cole
sport.
Hocker gives a shit if he has a post-Olympic letdown? No, he won the
Not
Olympic
even
gold
that,
medal.
he ran a 320.
I know he was great anyway, but I mean, but he wouldn't care either way. He's got the hardware.
But I don't think he's run slower than 330. That isn't a letdown. That's
He's
like
great.
You're still one of the best. So that's
Listen,
and again, that goes to you and what you were saying, how we just take this too damn seriously sometimes. Because that is not an article that needs to be written about a guy that hasn't run slower than 330 since the Olympics. Like it.
Right. Oh, by the way, that was his PR until that day.
Exactly.
Right.
By the way, if you're going to pick a day,
God,
that's the day that you talk about having your day. I went. There were a couple of times that Rob and I had. It was great because there's no commercials, so you're talking for the whole session.
Yeah.
And we got on the kind of the topic of how fragile Olympic dreams are. Right. Like what if you are sick at the trials and you don't go? What if you hurt your Courtney Frericks, who couldn't even get to the trials because they're like, not only just to get to that day is remarkable.
We've been talking about Emma Coburn, who at the beginning of her season didn't have one because of her injury.
Like Olympic dreams are so, and even if you get it right, you get to hurdle 9 and you're Lolo Jones and you fall, and now people don't think Lolo Jones
or Gail Devers.
Fantastic.
Lolo Jones is one of the best athletes we've ever seen. To go from there and also to do the bobsled as well, like just a freak of nature athlete.
Won a world championship, but that's the day that you got to have. Gail Devers, at least, God bless her, won a couple in the 100. She good to have your fallback sport, your distance. But but you just think all the things. It's so much easier to figure out what could go wrong on the way to that podium than what can go right, because everything has to go so right.
Yeah. So we have another question from Darren.
You bust a shoelace, any of that thing,
So, John, will you assist the Bowerman presentation this upcoming convention? Grant H is almost ready, but you balance his energy on the broadcast.
Right now, I am scheduled to do it. The chances, though, that when we get to we are in Orlando at the JW Orlando Marriott, that Grant has some of his Florida people tie me up and kidnap me and put me in a closet so he can do it by himself. Right now, I feel like is probably a good shot. He's made no bones about it. He's like, dude, I want you out.
So, John, we'll come there and be your bodyguards. We won't help really at all because I'm a scrawny guy, and Dave is
and I'm bald clearly.
He's bald, so we won't help much, but we'll be there to try.
So when Grant when he ran the indoor the first time, I think he ran 7:29. Is he down to 7:27 now? Whatever. And if you'd like, he'd got a better haircut, so he was bald. He had shaved it all off. And I'm like, dude, if I ran that fast, I would have eyebrows and no other body hair.
No, go Whoopi. Get it all gone. You got to go Whoopi.
But listen, I so love working with him. And he and I don't think I have a better friend in track and field. When we were at the Bowermans last year in Denver, friends of ours that lived here in Connecticut had moved out. We hadn't seen them 5 or 6 years, and their daughter come. And I'm like, hey, I got to go over and see these folks. All right. He's like, can I come? I'm like, sure. But I don't know. He comes, he has lunch with them all. And so now they call, like, did you see Grant won? I'm like, yeah, of course. He is such a Pied Piper and all those things. He does. He brings such energy. His name is Stanley. That's even better. So, his real name is Stanley, even though nobody calls him that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know his name was Stanley.
That's great.
We're laying out some information here.
Stanley Grant Holloway II, after his dad, who's a
Stanley's a great name. Why is he not called by Stanley?
Well, because I think his dad goes by Stanley, and so
Stan.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
So anyway,
sense.
that's why. He's Stanley Grant Holloway. So yeah, I can't. And that's another one where I just love the Bowerman. I love doing that. I keep trying to quit, and then for various reasons, I've kind of come back. And now this sounds gross, and I'm tooting my own horn, but like I got last year I got a nice note from Kyle Garland. He's like, I can't wait to be on the stage with you. And I'm like, I guess maybe I should do it then. Parker Valby's dad's like, she says she's not coming if you're not going to do it. I'm like, I should call her bluff because of course she's going to go.
So John, I hate to break it to you.
People.
You might be done at ESPN and SportsCenter, but you're never getting out of track and field in terms of what calling it and being there. Like you're not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
No, the convention's great too because one, they're all there from all those other places. Yeah. By the way, here's just a small note since we talked about me getting started and going to the lacrosse track camp when Gary Wilson's there. So I used to host the Hall of Fame induction, and now they do it a little different, so that's fine. But the year Gary goes in, I'm doing the convention. I'm going to be there. And my mom, because she's a hoarder, but she's got some of the stuff, and he had sent me a letter. So I had this letter, and I was able to congratulate him. And I said, by the way, I just want to read this letter. Dear John, we've been following your progress. Congratulations. Great jump. If you want to feel like you want to do more track and field or continue it, we'd love to talk to you about coming to lacrosse, and we'll sign Gary Wilson. So I was able to go to his Hall of Fame induction and show him this. And I said, listen, sometimes the impact these guys have isn't a coach, isn't somebody they coach. He did not coach me. But if I don't get this letter from Gary Wilson, and lacrosse is big time then, right? They're still winning national. That this guy thought maybe I had some ability. I don't ever call Wisconsin. I don't call Bob Thiel.
But what your world life would have been without that letter.
Because this coach who took time to send me a letter and made me think, maybe, never coached me, but had a huge impact on why I'm sitting in front of you guys right now.
That's incredible.
So it's crazy that that is, what do they call it? That's truly a butterfly effect of what that was. But to be there and still have that letter and show it to him it was so cool.
Awesome.
So, John, I want to close out here with asking the same question we ask most of our guests at the end. And, we spitballed a whole bunch of things, but I'm going to kind of make you specific it here. And I imagine you've wrapped your head around this question, especially being in sports media, on how to do this. But one of our goals on this show has been to kind of bring this to the normies instead of talking X's and O's, kind of getting stories and bringing that, because we felt that, a compelling story, hearing a champion, but what they had to go through and humanizing them is always better than just seeing their accomplishments. So if you could have a magic wand, wave it, and one thing fixes the sport of track and field to make it better so that we're getting not just the diehards, but the normies and the casuals, so we can get our pros paid. In the end, right. Our goal is, honestly, me and Dave, I can never see a dime. But if our pros become millionaires, I'm a happy guy because they deserve it, right? They shouldn't have to be doing second jobs in order to be the best athletes on the planet. So what would you fix in our sport in order to get those casuals involved and get our sport to be the sport we know it should be?
So first, my first thought, I chuckled, is because I was thinking of a conversation I had with Chris Chavez over at Sidious one time.
Yep. We love Sidious. They're fantastic.
Chris worked at ESPN, and that's where we first met. And
okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was an intern here, and he's like, I hear you like track and field. That's how I met Lara Overton, as she was running. Yeah. She was an intern at ESPN, and she was running for IU. And so I looked at Chris and I said, do you think track and field would be better? And then he just went, yes. Right? I didn't say anything. I said, yes. I'm like, okay.
Any idea? Throw it all at the wall.
I know where that is, so I don't know. I just, and you're right. It is the world's greatest mystery that how the three most popular Olympic sports, I still think track and field's number one. I think swimming's very close. Yep. And then gymnastics. How those things, all with unbelievable personalities, take Bolt, or take just generational athletes. Take Simone Biles,
Michael Phelps,
take
Katie Ledecky, Michael Phelps,
or Ledecky. Even with those, all three of those back underground, disappeared now. So, right, how do we not make that disappear? How do we make those people? How do you make them still want to see Sydney McLaughlin when she runs?
It's like women's soccer. Women's soccer, same thing.
So how do we get that? That is the $1 million question. And if I had the answer, I'd make $10 billion. Things like, but little things like the meet in New York City to the female alley, get them in. It's just how do we need to immediately get those people. I've often thought, like, could you take and make like an Olympic Stars tour like they did with Dancing with the Stars tour or the Voice guys, right? They take those ones that didn't win or something and boom, they go on tour. Okay, let's take our Olympians that won and go on tour for the first month. Yeah. Bring them back. But we got to make it worth their while because they're not making tons. So they got to go because the people that are singing, they make no money.
Yeah.
And so here it is. This is all thing. Like the rest of these people have to go or their shoe contracts have to be, they got to fulfill those kind of sponsorships. But I take them out and go here and I'd have them run against each other or do something. But we need somehow, I think that would be the first thing is we got to keep them out there, got to keep them afloat for a while.
I like that.
Right. Yeah. I got to get them invested. So how do we make like a tour of these people that can come to 8 spots? Right. There's a lot of running. I don't know. But I think one of them, let's do that. Let's get them around the country for people. We need NBC, I think, has done a great job of bringing it more and more. They're showing more and more meets. I do think they do it strictly as a feeder for the Olympics.
Yeah, and it has to be on free TV. That's the problem.
So I'd like it to be on free TV. I'd like it to, because what we found at ESPN was when we put it on.
It was great on Saturday mornings. I freaking love watching the Saturday morning meets.
If it's got a good window, that's where the NCAA used to be hard. It comes up against the NBA finals and some of those.
Yeah.
People watch, like people there, because there are still folks. It's still the most popular high school sport going. It's still the most, I shouldn't say that. It has the greatest participation. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a story about running track. And the people say, I've never ran track. I don't like it. I go, did you ever race your buddy to that tree over there? Good. You've been in track and field.
And even in high school, if there's a good athlete, your stands, you'll have fans in the stands to go and watch that good athlete run that dual meet or something like that.
That to me is the big thing is how do we just keep them up and how we go? And then look at some of these guys. It's not their fault. I get it. They get hurt. And all of a sudden they're like, I got to shut it down for the rest of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Grant Holloway came out and run, but he lost his first meet right away. You talk about a letdown, right? Well, sure. Cause I just, there's a great picture that John Anderson Bobo took. Okay. John Bobo was the videography, the content guy at Florida for a long time. Now he's out at Oregon doing great work. But he had a great picture of Grant, all smiles, right? Here he smiles, all this, but it's before he went through the mix zone. And he's just by himself. He's got the American flag dripped over him. And he's like this. And you can just see the relief in this guy's thing. Because you knew, like, this is the whole thing. If he kicks this, he's never, like, he doesn't know what he's going to do. So that you're that emotionally spent, like I get where you might not want to go on and do some of those things. But the biggest thing is just how do we take those people that we've seen in the Olympics that NBC has done a great job of showing us, as you said, they're not just their time. Right. They're this person. They all have a story. We just need to keep it out there and keep it afloat somehow. We need to get it. So at some point, does NBC make, you know what? We got a NASCAR race. Do we put the NASCAR race on Peacock and show a track meet? And nice. then they have to be good track meets.
Yeah.
That's the thing is that
when I watch the NFL
game,
when I watch an NFL game, all those players are in the NFL. Mm-hmm. When I watch Diamond League's pretty good, but every once in a while there's a lane filler in there. But that's not on our time. That's in our spot. So it's the hardest question, but I just need to have them out there. And then like NBC has done some great things like, hey, look, they showed, where were they? Maryland, right? When the last game, not this past week with just Pittsburgh, but the Ravens game. Mm-hmm. And they had, she was from Maryland. They had 2 Maryland athletes. One was a gymnast and one was a runner from Maryland. Who am I thinking of? Anyway, but they did a Jacksonville game and before the Olympics. And look, there's Anna Hall. And why people aren't doing this? Why would you not put Anna Hall in everything that you have? Why would you not? I don't care what I want to sell. I think Gabby Thomas could sell it for me.
Yeah.
So could Sydney.
I don't mean to do that.
I've said that, one thing that bothers me is that Go ahead, John. Sorry.
I got a catalog one time from Brooks, from New Balance, and I saw Jenny Simpson. And I said, Jenny, here I got this New Balance calendar or this New Balance magazine, and they're selling shoes and they're selling tights and they're selling all the stuff, and not one of the women in the because there was the women, flip it over and then the men's, but because I was talking to Jenny, not one of them was Jenny or Brenda Martinez or Sid. All these, like, why do you have a day model in here? She's beautiful, but so are all these people, and they use the product. But I guess it's how do you get them to the New York, and it costs, it's cheaper to do this. But like, why would you not put those people? You're selling New Balance, and you don't even use your 8 greatest people.
I know,
and that's one thing I've said on the show before, and I know some people don't want to hear it, but there are some good-looking people right now in the sport. Noah Lyles is objectively good-looking. Mondo Duplantis, they're good-looking. Sid's gorgeous. Like you just said, put them out front. They should be everywhere. And, even they don't even have to be great-looking as long as they're great. But you also push everyone.
Kim Kardashian goes to the Golden Globes, and she goes to all that. Like, what does she do?
Nothing.
She did something.
Run these people down every red carpet.
Yeah.
Get them out
Pay
there.
the money to get them out there.
Time to do it, right? The American Music Awards were on the other night. Have somebody go there.
And you know what? And so get them going to basketball games and going to football games and being visible on the stands.
If Sha'Carri Richardson, Noah Lyles, Gabby Thomas, anyone, even Cole Hocker showed up and was got courtside at a Knicks game, I promise they will show Olympic gold medalist 1500 meter Cole Hocker hanging out with Yara Naguse courtside. Like that will be. But what you said, but. The thing is, these sponsorships, and I think Nike and them need to start considering, hey, maybe we should spend a little now because we'll make more later if we get these individuals out there.
Yeah, I think they do. You got to have some place that's willing to kind of let them do that and host them. But I don't know why you wouldn't want those people. Grant Holloway is a good looking.
I've always said we need a legitimate promotion.
Other than you've got kind of tanning ears, but he's not offensive to anybody.
No. Grant Fisher, no. But then we get with this momentum, like NBC loses Diamond League. Now it's going to Flow Track. Like, oof. Like
another paywall.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
And a less well-known.
Somehow, like I get it.
Right.
Like,
but there are people who
for years, we finally, I think it was David Stern that just said, okay, could we just please, could we just say that during your Tuesday game that the ESPN games are going to be Friday, Sunday, and ESPN, can you put that the games are going to be on TNT? The idea that I got to pay for Flow Track and I got to pay for Rudder Space and all these other, like it's a million paywalls. Somehow get some things together because they're all, it's like this. I get you have your piece of the pie and I get you want to protect your piece of the pie. But if we work together and we make the pie bigger, then your piece of pie gets bigger.
But it's also like ESPN. I could watch everything that ESPN and ESPN2 airs just if I have the cable network, right? But if I want to get more, I get ESPN Plus. Pay for access. FlowTrack should be putting Diamond League meets out there for free on YouTube every single week. And if you want pay for the scenes, you want interviews, you want big time things, that's what you get FlowTrack for the access to other things. And I think that would be confusing. Diehards like us, I would love to see interviews and things like that.
I'll be interested to see what they do. I consider Ryan Fenton a very good friend of mine. I think I told him I couldn't be happier they have it.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where Grand Slam, they've got a lot of irons in the fire. See where they land and how
they more. Yeah.
Listen,
we need one of them to get on.
ATF has to stream its stuff, which is, at times I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that. So it's, that it's kind of all over the place hurts the sport, that sometimes that, Christian Coleman and Fred don't want to race each other, or it appears they don't, because they sure don't end up together. Like some of those things are plaguing it. It would be nice to have a regular spot, right? I know when the NFL played on Sunday all the time, and I know that's the majority of it. And then all of a sudden, it's on Thursday. Wow, that's a treat. If I knew that every other week was my Diamond League, bang, but it's in different parts of the world. And so those time, the time, it's hard to do it in Shanghai at one time and, Brussels the next and all those other things. So there are things
it's tough.
Could work it together. Here's some things I would like to see. I would like to see Seb Coe get his wish and put cross country in the Winter Olympics.
Agreed.
That would be phenomenal.
Oh,
that would be great.
How is it not? But we got breakdancing.
I want every one of those leagues to succeed. I want it to be somewhere where I can see it or it's going to be seen. Part of the problem with having so many places to put it is that that means it's hard to find.
Yep.
Appointment viewing is hard to find when you got to figure out where the hell the appointment is.
Agreed.
So there are a lot of things, but I don't know. Can I leave you with my Mondo 10,000 meter story?
I would love to hear it.
Here's our guy. So 2 years ago, SECs, it was after the World Championships, and the SEC outdoor meet is in Louisiana. And so I know him a little bit and had gotten to know him, even his 1 year in track. But Todd Lane, I know those people, and I don't know his dad super well, but his dad and Joe Dial are friends, and I've known Joe forever. And so I call him and I said, "Hey, we're coming down. You've got two choices. We're either going to play golf on Wednesday when I get in, or you can help me call the 10,000s on Thursday night, and you got to sit up there and help me call the 10,000s." And he was like, "What time do we tee off?" And so we played and we had a wonderful time. But I'm like, so when I watched that great, because 10,000, I think, wasn't that the first final when they had the men's final and they went, all I could think of was, Mondo, you better do well because you should have been here for this 10,000 meters tonight. And I know how you feel about distance runners right now, and you're a hater.
That's incredible. And you know what, Mondo? Since Dave and I are both middle distance guys, maybe we need to not be as nice to you on this damn show now. Now we're angry at you. No,
I love me some Mondo.
I can see the SEC 10,000 might be hard, but I don't know. That guy's one of these days, that guy's going to come down covered in snow because he just is too hot. Like, that's just one of these days you're just going to like, oh my God, look at him.
Or a plane's going to hit him and he's just going to.
Look at that guy. He's like, because he's sweating, and all of a sudden, like, your shorts literally froze because it's 12 degrees Celsius, whatever it is.
Oh my God. So John, thank you so much for
thank you.
Appreciate this, man.
Anytime. Like I said, it's good to have this talk, and it's nice because as I prepare for the New York Marathon, right, I'm going to have all this stuff that's not going to make it, right? I told people Boston last year, like, you got 25 guys and I'm in, I got all this stuff, right? And Cisa runs off in mile 2 and nobody's with him.
Yep.
I'm like, what am I going to do with this? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bore my wife and kids with this at the dinner table for months.
Bore us anytime.
Now I can come to you guys and my
Bore
wife.
us.
Go talk to Dave and Alex. Where are the Oval guys? We need those guys around.
You are welcome here at any time.
Yeah, call your Ovaltine people. I'm like, it's not the Ovaltine, but anyway.
I'll take it. We will be Oval as long as we're known. I don't give a crap. We want people to come here to talk.
I say that to everybody, whether it's Chris, whether Chavez, whether it's the Magic Boost program or you guys. I mean, like this, the Lactic Acid podcast. If you're not on with my man Dom, sometimes you ever have Dominic on?
No, we want him on.
Lactic Acid podcast. If nothing else, just to talk about R&B music. We always threaten we're going to talk about track, and then we never get past the Temptations. But anybody that's out there fighting the good fight, man, I'm there. So it's kind of like when I went out and did that opening for Grand Slam track, and I said, I have no idea. I wasn't there to campaign for a job I'm just like, if I can be an ally for the sport, I just want to be an ally for the sport.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys having me.
So once again, he's John Anderson. I think the best way to truly bring him in is fellow track and field junkie, because he's one of us and I love it. But long time great ESPN SportsCenter anchor.
I was one of you before you guys were you. I'm 59. I think I got you guys beat by a lot.
You have me beat. You do have me beat, but it's always nice to talk to, once you're in the family, you're in the family though. It doesn't matter the age. Okay. We're all in. So, you'll hear him at the New York City Marathon, Boston. And if you are at Mizzou and you're a journalism major, you may have him as a professor. So, obviously your Brewers aren't around. My Yankees are still doing their thing, and your Packers will be in better shape than my
Yankees are now tied. By the way, your Yankees are now tied 1-1.
I know.
Okay. That's fine. Listen, as long as we could pitch
Carlos Rodon pitched. Rodon started off this game so good, struck out everybody first inning, and then just.
We just need to. We need to.
Are you both Yankee guys?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We need to turn it into softball and have Cole pitch every game. Okay, we need to figure out a way, because if Cole could pitch every game, we're a championship team.
He wasn't great last game though.
It doesn't matter. Not great and whatever. He'll give you 6 innings. He's a horse. Anyway, we're not going to go into a baseball talk here, but we appreciate John being on. If you like what you saw, heard today, we appreciate everyone watching on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. Go do all the fun stuff, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Find us on all the socials at Talking Nobles, and we'll be back next week with another great guest, another great time.